welcome to the Hit Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Ruth. I'm a licensed attorney, and I'm going to put Jason under oath today, and we're going to ask him if he has overcome his trauma. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Do you swear affirm what you were about to give us will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you someone's God?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, here we go. Who did you come out of and where?
Her name is, she's had a couple last names. Her name's Mary. We'll just call her Mary Jane because that's her middle name. So,
all right, and where'd you grow up?
Around Kansas City for the most part, a little bit of adolescence down in Springfield, Missouri, but Kansas City, Missouri, majority of my life, Blue Springs in specific. So,
Okay, dad in the picture?
My father was deceased at age 3, at my age of 3. He was 24 when he passed away, and he was killed at work. My parents were divorced at that time. Obviously, at 3, I didn't know what that was. My mom soon remarried to my stepfather, namesake. He adopted me after they got married, and his name is Steve. So,
any brothers or sisters?
I've got 2 sisters. Jamie is my oldest sister with my biological father, and then my half sister Jackie is with Steve.
Okay. So what's your trauma?
Which one isn't? There's a lot. I mean, I've got abandonment, betrayal. I mean, I've got mother wounds, father loss wounds. I'm ever discovering more. I've got jealousy. I've got fear of being left, and it's all fear-based. Everything, all of this is fear-based. My inner child is screaming at me most of the time, every day. So,
hold on a second. Now we're getting to our next question: is how does your trauma manifest in your life? How does it affect your daily life?
Okay. So it's funny, if you're not aware of it, you don't know that it's happening. It's just life. And when you really start diving into how these traumas affect you, it's more so in relationships. Like, you can have a whole conversation with yourself and be fine if nobody else is in the picture, but somebody else is, I don't want to say interfering, but conversing with you or having life with you, and something happens that doesn't set well, your internal organs and emotions and everything really just catch on fire, and it doesn't settle well with you, and you have physiological responses to everything. And fear, brings anger, anxiety, rage, all of these things. And it could be something as simple as a misunderstanding. 99% of the time, it's misunderstanding or meaning making that wasn't there. So,
how did you become aware of your trauma affecting your life?
Well, are you ready for the long story of this?
Of course.
This is the meat and potatoes of it. Well, I was a firefighter when I first, I was a fire cadet when I started at 15. I was in Springfield. I was a Logan-Rogersville volunteer cadet, where you got to hang around and do the things. And in a rural department, you got to actually do things as a 15-year-old. Today's world, probably not so much, but back then it was a lot less constrictive. So then I went into law enforcement. I went in, signed up for the academy, and there I was, 20 years old, graduating the academy. Couldn't be a cop until I was 21, so I worked in the jail in Blue Springs and went to be an officer out there and various other departments throughout my career of 13 years. And turns out I have a problem with authority. I really, I love the job. I love doing it. I love being there. But nobody prepares you for the trauma that you're going to see and be aware of as a cop. The strain it puts on a marriage, everybody's walking around on eggshells, never knew until I caught my wife having an affair. I was working midnight shift, and I got a phone call from a high school friend whose husband was the person that she was having an affair with. And I was sitting in a graveyard at the time when I got the phone call, doing patrol because it was on a main road. And Boy, a lot of things came in my mind right then. I'm like, no way. There's no way. There's no way she's not at home with our kids, and she's at your husband's house. Like, seriously. So I had one of my best friends drive past her, way out of my jurisdiction, and he was like, "Dude, you're an asshole. You're just you've you've fallen off. Your wife would never do this to you." Called me back, and he's like, "Man, I'm sorry. You want me to go in and kick everybody's ass?" I said, "No. I mean, the decision's been made, right? I mean, can't be mad at him for the story he's hearing." So, fast forward to 2019. That was 2007. I had actually gotten in a shooting in 2007, and that's what spiraled the divorce. I was extremely affected with PTSD and had no clue. And I've had some pivotal people in my life show up out of the blue to explain the entry level of understanding of what PTSD was, and found out she was having an affair a year after that. I apologize. A year after that. And we filed for divorce. So 2 years after me finding out, we were divorced, and numerous failed relationships after that. We'll fast forward through all that crap. I did lose a girlfriend in a car accident during that time as well. So a lot of trauma, lots of trauma, lots of unhealed emotions, wounds. Didn't even know you were supposed to go back and regurgitate all that and sit with it, and before you moved on to the next relationship. So
Let me stop you there for a second, Jason. Up until the girlfriend that passed away in the car accident, had you done any work inside therapy, inside breath work, inside anything to work on any of your traumas?
No, was completely unaware. I had went to the doctor during my divorce and said, "Hey, my life is turned to crap. I'm dealing with this, night sweats, terrors. I'm highly volatile." And loaded me up with medication. I got to spend probably 5 sessions with a therapist that was just to give me the medication, and then no follow up, no nothing. Just every month I got a new prescription. So, and I went through, oddly enough, almost 13 years of that, which numbed me out. Like I wasn't living. I didn't feel anything. Like, I felt love. I felt the basic forms of everything, but I disconnected, shut off. And in 2019, I broke my neck. I didn't break my neck. I had a chiropractor break my neck and had to have my C5 replaced because it was shattered and it was starting to paralyze me. So had the first surgery, woke up from that, was talking with my mom. I'm like, I'm hearing a drip inside my ear. And she's like, "No, stupid, it's your IV next to you." And I went out. I bled out. I coded. And they had nicked my artery in surgery. So they went in and did another surgery, which repaired that, but they couldn't get my blood pressure under control. They called in all my family from around the country. It was like, "He's not going to make it, get here, say your goodbyes," and all this stuff. And had to put me in a coma, a medically induced coma, to get the blood pressure down enough to gradually let my body rest enough to make it. And during that time, I lost 30 pounds and had to learn how to walk, talk, and breathe and function again when I came out of it. After that, I had just met a woman before that, and she was there a lot during that with my family, and she was friends with my mom. So I come out of the coma. We really are hitting it off, and I asked her to marry me. She accepted, and about 2 months after my coma, she left me, and then a month later, she was married with her ex-boyfriend. So more trauma, more BS for me to deal with. Well, I had scheduled a trip because as a cop, I didn't have money to do anything. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And in 2014, I switched from being a cop and started doing plumbing and HVAC and sales. And in 2019, I was part owner of an HVAC company in Kansas City. At that time, I had more money than I've ever had in my life, and most of my family members had. I wasn't used to that lifestyle. And I was starting to begin to be able to travel, like just pick up and go. And during my coma, the company that I was part owner in, I got a visit from a dear friend of mine who I'll keep the name and everything secret, but let me know that they were going to terminate me if I didn't get back to work in like 3 weeks. And I've got to learn how to walk, talk, and breathe and function. And I can't drive. I'm not supposed to be driving for 3 months. So I'm doing everything I can do to figure this out. So there were some things that happened when I was in my coma that I didn't understand, and I'll reiterate later. I get to this this point where they're about to release me from the hospital, but they're going to send me to a rehab unit for 2 weeks, and I'm just like, I can't. I'm going to lose my job, my livelihood. I woke up the morning they were going to transfer me to the rehab, and I walked down to the shower, dressed myself, showered myself, came back, put contacts in, tied my shoes, got, obviously dressed, and was sitting there waiting for the doctor to come in to discharge me to the rehab unit. And I stood up, walked over to him and shook his hand. He goes, "Who the hell are you?" I said, I'm on a mission. I got to go home. Like, my daughter starts school. I'm going to lose my job if I don't get back to work. So he's like, "Well, you're not going to rehab. There's insurance isn't going to cover that." So, so then my mom was a little upset because she had taken off to FMLA to get me on rehab, but she was expecting a little 2-week reprieve, and I was going home that day. So, lots of things happened there. My mom actually truly helped me get back on my feet, literally, figuratively. She was the hardest physical therapist I could ever have asked for. She pushed me more than I ever wanted to. I hated her at the time. Like, truly just despised hearing that door knock at 5:30 in the morning. Like, can you just come in? Like, you have the door code. No, she'd cop knock on my front door, so I'd have to get out of bed and walk down to the door to let her in.
That's a good mom.
Yeah.
That was, I'm sure, Jason, a hell of a lot of work to get your body back. And for anybody that is not watching this, Jason is a beast of a man. And I know what it's like when I take a week off of lifting and losing muscle mass like that. So I can't even imagine what it's like physically. I want to talk about the work mentally you did to what I call, detach from that story and that narrative and rebuild your own narrative into the person you are today. So tell me about the work that you did coming out of that coma, and coming out of that position in life, mentally.
So that brings me to Colorado. I went up to Colorado for a skiing trip with my buddies, and just the flights, they had it already set up. So I came in late because I didn't know if I was going to be able to go. And I just made the decision I'm going to go. And the only flight I could find was a couple days earlier. Well, I had an ex-girlfriend up there in Colorado, and I reached out to her. I hadn't talked to her in years, but she had followed the issue with the coma. It was a big media thing. And she had been on her journey for a while, her healing journey. And turns out I went and saw her. We talked about life, and I've never had a conversation like that ever. And she called me out on my fear, my womanizing, all of the crap that trauma brings up. And we really got into a deep conversation for days, where ended up doing shrooms with her. And I'm a former cop. I still was like, no, this is not okay. It's illegal. Like, what the hell? No. And she ended up becoming my wife. And we worked through for about 9 months anyway. And that was after 2 years of reconnecting. So But during those 2 years, she was facilitating my growth, and I had no idea what I was becoming. And I'm going to briefly go back to the coma, because this is the part I need to talk about. When I was in my coma, I had I was on some meds and a psychedelic journey. And my dad, who is deceased, opened the hospital room and peeked his head in and said, "Hey, son, it's time to come home," and reached his hand out. And there was light behind him, like bright white light. And I looked at him and I said, "Nah, I'm not ready. Can't leave my daughters. I can't leave my dog." And I said, "And my dog." And my dad turned into the vision of what we have as Jesus. And Jesus looked at me and said, "Really? Okay, hold on. We're going to use you." And he had the biggest smile on his face. And he shut the door, and I came out of my coma. And I have been on this accelerated path of healing ever since then. And that was in 2019. And I am 43 now. I'll be 44 this year, 2025. So, it wasn't like a lot of those things were just awareness, bringing awareness to things. And then I got married to my now ex-wife, and she pushed and pushed and pushed, and I felt like I left the company that was going to terminate me, and I started my own thing, which was a whole nother world for me, but it has too. I mean, not by my own accord. It's been really just spirit driven, and it keeps getting better. I get more and more opportunities. So it wasn't until, we'd sat in ayahuasca together 7 different times, and ayahuasca, the last session, spirit came to me and was like, "You didn't because I asked specifically, am I supposed to be with this woman?" And it was not good. The answer was not good. I ended up purging black tar out of my mouth, and daggers were pulled out of my heart where they were placed in to secure my heart to this person. And so I had actually talked to an attorney the week before that ceremony. And I said, "Hold on to this, and I will get back to you next week." And I had called him after leaving the ceremony and said, "Proceed." It was a really dark time in my life at that time. And I really, I lost my tribe, my whole healing people. I wasn't going to interfere with hers. I didn't want to see her. And she was my shaman. I mean, she was my energy healer. She did all the Reiki. She did everything. She's very, very good at what she does. And then I started to find my own people. I went to a relationship coach who taught me how to love myself for the first time 2 years ago. I had no idea I was supposed to sit and love myself and be my best friend so that nobody else had to fill that role.
This is one of my favorite questions of guys. You're my age. I'm 43 as well. When was the first time that you accepted and felt love?
So that's a 2-part question. The first time was I had went to Tennessee in this men's group that was supposed to be 6 men for a weekend with David Lee and Paige Stewart. They are amazing people, masculine and feminine roles. They teach the pendulum on how to get, into a center. And I was such stuck in my wounded feminine that being masculine wasn't even on my radar. And if it was highly toxic masculine energy from the patriarchal way I was raised by firemen and cops, and just a true, oh my God, and really getting disgusted with the way I had been in life, and seeing through different ceremonies the damage that men cause women by just being men. The emotional trauma that we put women through, if you're not witnessing it and seeing them cracked like crystal glass in ceremony, and their cry just echoing through the room of shame, of sadness, it opened my eyes. In fact, it healed me in my relationships with my daughters. I have two of them. One I wasn't even speaking to, wasn't planning on to, because it was such a traumatic departure from my life. I didn't have any reason to contact her, and that was a non-negotiable from my ex-wife. She's like,
How
no.
old were you when he did this? When he had this awareness?
This is between 2019 and 2022, so 39, 40.
Yeah, it was. I was about 30, 37 when it happened for me, and the line that changed it for me was, look at every heterosexual relationship around you. You're going to see they're all hostage negotiations.
Yeah.
That it's, men, when they physically impose their will on a woman, it becomes a hostage situation. I'll get your input, but I'm making the final decision.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you came to that awareness. What
Yeah.
does being masculine look like to you?
Not what people think. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it with pride. Being a servant, being soft. I'm a big guy. I'm 265 pounds and 6 foot tall. And I don't mean soft like letting people walk all over you. Your energy. Calm it down. You're not in a war all the time. And I was. Sometimes I still am. But being aware of your self-presence and being a servant to others, not because it provides you with anything, but it really does. It's an energy exchange. And you can be this tough guy on the exterior that people think. They don't know you. They don't know you until you get vulnerable. And
Don't you think? Don't you think that vulnerability is nothing more than, for me at least, when you talk about being that servant mentality, it's taken away the selfishness. It's looking at every situation instead of walking into a room and a scene saying, "What can you do for me?" It's walking into that scene and saying, "What can I do for you?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you were getting ready to touch on the vulnerability of it. So, how does that play into when you're in that servant mentality? For me, it's a lot easier to be vulnerable. What's your experience been like?
I absolutely am in love with the opportunity to be vulnerable to not only women, but to men. So much so that I've started a men's group and a one-on-one group that I can allow men to feel safe, to be heard, to speak their truth, and to not chastise them. We all walk in this life, and we're supposed to be walking each other home. And oftentimes we judge and we throw people under the bus, and we try to conquer and persevere. And why? You live in your life, they're living their life. They have their traumas. I got my traumas. And I'm never going to be completely healed. Let's get that straight. Like, it's just not going to be ever a time when these past traumas don't come up emotionally, and you have to check yourself. So this loving awareness that the masculine man has, this kindness, living through your heart and not your mind, speaking through your heart and not your mind, processing it. Things arise, drop it down into your heart or into your body so you can feel it, sit with it and meditate with it and get clarity on it before it comes out as this ugly spew. And I'm still working on this.
Yeah, I was
Still
gonna say,
fail just all the time. All the time. I fail.
it's what I call, you got to wake up and renew that license to be your shitty self, because you recognize it's going to happen. What do you do when you're triggered and your face gets hot and you feel yourself flying off the handle? What's your process look like now?
So kind of bipolar sometimes, to be truthful. Like, it's like there's some days when I am back in that old mentality and I did not check myself. I didn't meditate in the morning. I roll out of bed in a bad way, on the wrong foot. And I have started a daily routine. I get up at 5:20. I head to the gym. I work out. If my workout partner doesn't show up, cool, more time for me. I go sit in the dojo and I meditate. I'll do breath work by myself in the dark. And so this morning he was late, and I did a mile on the treadmill with my eyes closed and my ears on, listening to Ram Dass. And I I had a hold of the side so I didn't fall off or misstep. But I worked on breath work as I walked that mile with my eyes closed. And I opened my eyes just periodically to check my surroundings. And he's standing there walking next to me. And I'm nearing a mile at this point. I said, "You ready?" So we got to work out. But taking that time, waking up and having your morning routine, not relying on anybody else to have morning sex with, have, loving conversation with, like, that was wearing my partner out. She wasn't speaking her truth. And it's created problems. It's created resentment. But she was right. Once she started speaking, she was like, "You need to make yourself happy. I ain't the one." And she's right about that. Absolutely. And I lost focus on it because we get into this codependency instead of this intermeshment, this coming together, spending that time together, coming apart, allowing them to be free, and just the circle of life how it should be. And you just want this all the time because it feels really good. This doesn't allow anybody to be themselves.
Yeah, it's what I call as a stoic my inner citadel. I need to make sure that those walls are high around that happiness. And if it's not bright and pumping strong, I can't give any love to anybody else. And you need a partner to know when that light inside you starts to fade a little bit and you need some time for yourself. And I tell people I didn't know love until I was 38. I didn't know what self-care was until I was probably 42 and what it means to recharge those energies. And, do a Google search for what ego depletion looks like and understand you can only give so much energy to others before you need to reel back into yourself. Because like you probably, if my ego gets depleted and I give myself to everybody else, that's when I start to get, I call myself hangry, or I start using excuses that I'm upset. And it's just because I haven't taken time for myself to fall back in and say, "Hey, how you doing there, brother? You doing all right?"
Mm-hmm. And I want to add this to that. That was amazing sentiment. Be careful who you spend time with. Be careful who gets in your energetic field, because people that are not living the way you want to live or elevated, and they want to go and do whatever they do, not caring about what traumas they're creating, you're going to fall into that cycle. And so be careful of who you receive information from and who you and who you spend your time with. I have recently, about 2 years ago, I cut everybody out, including my family. The cycle of toxicity that kept coming up after setting boundaries and saying, I'm not going to be around that. Like, I had to leave. I had to remove myself because I was having to justify myself and my actions and my feelings to them. And it's nothing to do with them. And they're projecting their traumas. I'm projecting my traumas. Remove yourself from it. Be done with it.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for it. I tell people all the time, I've done it a number of times in my life for my own sanity a lot, but I love to talk about what the process looks like of cutting people out of your life. And what the actual logistics of it are is you stop reaching out. And what you find in that process is when you stop reaching out, the real friends in my life, they didn't stop reaching out to me. So when I stopped reaching out, they would keep coming back to me. And that's what would make me realize, oh, they really are a good friend. I just needed to get out of my own shit so I could see that. Or the better thing that happens is they stop reaching out and you go, "Thank you. Thank you for showing that you weren't a true friend to me." So that's what it actually looks like, right? So when I say, yeah, I've cut people out of my life, it's just you don't pick up the phone again. You don't send the other email, right?
Yeah.
Proud of you for doing that, brother. I know it's hard to do for a lot of people, but you have to move on. You have to protect, as kids of trauma, as people that have gone through trauma, and in a way that you have to have a moment of pause in your processes. We're different than normal people. Normal people that have functional trauma, mom and dad didn't love enough, but they had the baseline for that. They didn't witness shootings. They didn't go through comas. They didn't go through the things that give you moments of pause in life and say, "Shit, I better make this worth it," or for what, right? And the work that you've done, it's clear that you've overcome your trauma in a way to do it. I know you're going to keep giving your good to everybody else out there. But I hope that you keep speaking that truth to men, especially, because it's incredibly hard for a lot of people to be vulnerable when they're not aware of how their hurt can hurt others, right? We've all been victims of that. So, I can't thank you enough, Jason, for speaking here. And again, I want to tell the people where you're at, what you're up to, what you're doing. You talked about your company and your men's group, but where can we find you?
I'm out in my home base is at Blue Springs, Missouri, which is just a suburb of Kansas City. I currently own and operate a plumbing and heating company out here in Blue Springs. Um, I have since done some restructuring and don't have any employees because I needed to work on myself and grow so I could be the leader that they need. And I'm just now speaking to an executive team to hire them on to do the day-to-day stuff. That's going to be at the end of this month. We have that meeting and hopefully streamline things into this other business training that I've done into to grow this thing 10x. So I've also ventured off to my own mentorships. I'm currently in 2 mentorships and counseling because if you're going to be a mentor, you got to do 10 times the work that the people that are going to come see you do. Yep. And the things that you absorb in those, you got to work through them. So it's not just working through your own stuff, it's working through their stuff too. And how to show up and be a positive influence on them and for everybody around you. And I'm not perfect. I make my mistakes. I put my pants on the same as everybody else. Sometimes I even fall. And as I was sitting in meditation on Monday at the gym, I had taken a trip to Ireland in August to do a spiritual conquest. I didn't have an itinerary. They almost didn't let me in because they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I told them the truth. You don't ever tell them the truth. Have a plan. And the only reason they let me in is I had a return flight and a rental car. So, and during that trip, I stumbled across a breathwork master who put his event on for free out by the ocean, and 400 people showed up to his event. And I've never been a part of something so big in a healing modality. And I spoke with him. I spoke with him online a little bit in email back and forth while I was in Ireland. And he actually took time away from hosting 400 people to have a very heart-to-heart with me. And I asked him, I said, "Can you come to the United States and do this here in Kansas City? I'll set it up. I'll bring the people." And he goes, "Why aren't you doing it?" So I've been in the relationship since I got back from Ireland, and my focus has been on that. And now it's not. My focus is back on me and how I can show up for this world and be a positive human. And it's happening now. I'm going to start, I'm looking at a facility right now to bring healing to people. And I think I found one, and I'm working on negotiating what that looks like. And I'm just going to take the plunge. Everything I've ever done, I've launched the rock and caught up next to it. I didn't know that was a thing until I did some business training. And that's really, truly how these big, massive companies grow and scale really fast. And so I am just going to let all of my fears go, continue my mentorships. And I've already got a following of people that are waiting for me just to give them a date. And I'm over here like, okay, use me. Like, I'm ready.
Well, hopefully this will be a nice kickoff party for you and give you the push you need. I can't wait to see, again, the good you're going to give to us, man, is going to be awesome. You've already been an exceptional human being, and I know you're going to continue that excellence going forward. So thank you for your time, Jason. Thank you for sharing your story. And any last landing? Oh, one last question I got to ask you. I always ask these people this last question. What advice are you going to give to somebody who's been in your similar circumstance?
I hear you. I see you. Welcome. Let's go.
There you go. That's all we need, brother. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. There you go. And listen, if you're there in firefighters, cops, first responders of the world, find Jason, find men like him. They're all over the world. I'm running into them all over the world. We're out here. We want to talk to you. Doesn't cost money to reach out to a friend and say, "Hey, let's have a conversation." So do that. And for everybody else, get a hold of me, thehonestyexperiment.com and thegoodly25@gmail.com. Have a good one.
Eric, thank you.
Thank you.